Nothing Personal starts in 30 seconds. It's just business. This is Nothing Personal.
Here you go. Here you go.
Leader. That's the Nothing Personal word of the day. It is Thursday, November 14th, 2024. And Aaron Rodgers would like to talk to you about leadership. Because as you know, he is the most qualified football player in all the land to tell you about how things actually are, not how we perceive them to be. He uses his platform to make sure that we are focused on the one thing that matters, and that is Aaron Rodgers. I'm not sure that I've seen an athlete in my time act the way he acts, and this is not because of his political views or his anti-vax views or all the different things that he stands for. Live and let live. What's interesting is that he doesn't share that. Aaron Rodgers would like to make sure that he is the sun to all of our stars and that we revolve around him, that it is his world. He wants us to follow him into the great beyond. And if you are a Jets fan, you have a small problem, because Aaron Rodgers came in with all these great expectations. He got hurt after 4 snaps last year, came back. He said he's going to be the fastest recovery in the history of Achilles tendons. Of course, that was total horse hockey. He's just a man, folks. And there's a pretty good history about how to come back, what it takes. So he comes back and he's ready to go this year. We have a wait to see that he won't play 13 games. So far, he's playing. We're not quite at 14 yet, but he's playing. So here we are in November. The Jets season is finished. Woody Johnson can tell you all he wants about how it's the best team he's put together, how he still believes in the team. We did a coaching change. Everything's going to be great now. That's why we did it so early. The Jets are the Jets. And you will find the Jets not playing a game once the playoffs start. So for whatever reason, Aaron Rodgers enjoys the limelight and feels as though that when the light is shining upon him, people will follow him. So we decided to talk yesterday about whether he wanted to come back next year. Instead of saying, which would have been an amazing response, which is, I'm not even focused on next year. I have a contract for next year, but it's all about this week's game. It's all about this season. It's all about maximizing our talent and our ability to win games, to get past the coaching change, the unfortunate coaching change that happened, and do our best to get back to the Super Bowl for this great fan base. That'd be nice. No, that's not what he talked about. He actually wanted everyone to make sure that he hasn't decided. So he wanted to answer about, hey, are you coming back? What do you think? And he said, I think so. Yeah. Roger, could you stop? I just said Roger. I don't know why. 4869. Aaron, could you please stop? You see, he's got 37.5 million reasons why his decision's already been made. Why would you have to say he thinks so? Yeah, I think I want to make $37.5 million. We know what his motivation is. It's always been the same. It doesn't matter what uniform he's had on. And I don't blame him for that. I'm in, but just be honest about it. There's going to be a lot of talk within Jets online circles about what the dead cap hit would be if he's not back. The answer is $49 million. What his salary would be if he is back. The answer is $37.5 million. What his salary cap would be if he is back. That's $23.5 million. But I think that's the least of the issues. The issues that the Jets are confronting right now is who's going to lead us? Are we going to say that it's Rodgers who's going to go on record and is happy to go on record that he had nothing to do with the coaching change, that he has no say in anything, and he's just a player like the other 50-plus guys? Or do we want to embrace what his real function is under Woody Johnson? So he was willing to talk about the interim coach, Jeff Ulbrich. And do you think this is how leaders talk? When you are working for someone or you're trying to follow a leader, you're trying to be a leader yourself? I think Brick is an NFL head coach, whether it's here moving forward or down the line. Well, let me stop you right there, Mr. Rodgers. Ulbrich is an NFL head coach. He's already in the neighborhood. But then Rodgers said, he's a leader of men, and I'll stand by him. I'd love to play for him until the end. Well, is the end of this season? Is the end of next season? Are you now endorsing him as your full-time quarterback? And have you told Woody Johnson that, who may put the team in trust to go back and be an ambassador or God knows what else? I assume he could be Secretary of the Treasury. Who knows? When you have players who are commenting on your coaches, you talk to them and you hope that their message is the same, which is, I don't know what will happen because he's an interim coach, but I can only tell you that the surroundings, our environment, everything is positive. We just got to get the results. That's what you say when your team's losing. When your team is turned around with a new coach, we love the atmosphere. We love the passion, the emotion, the drive. We're beginning to play our best football, and the results are starting to show it. We couldn't be more excited to keep this season going. You can go with that direction. Or you can go with, I think, Bridge is an NFL head coach, whether it's here moving forward or down the line. That's a good one too, Aaron. What do you think is going to happen with him? Well, two things I can promise you. One is an official wait to see, one not. The first thing I can promise you is that Aaron Rodgers will be a Jet next season. Because once you're a Jet all the time, from your first cigarette to your last dying day. Aaron Rodgers, he's not walking away from 37.5. So wait to see officially Aaron Rodgers will stay on the Jets in 2025. He will not walk away from his contract. The second half of that is not a wait to see, because I don't have the best feeling about what is going to happen to the operation of the team. Will it go to Woody's brother? Is he going to think about selling the team? Is he not going to take a position in the new administration? I just know that Jeff Ulbrich has not performed as a coach in a manner that will give him any sort of leg up on becoming the full-time coach next season. There's a reason he's interim, and if you knew you wanted him next season and it weren't dependent on the rest of this season, you'd lift the interim tag so as to take uncertainty out of the market. When you leave the interim tag on a coach or a manager, it means that you're doing a total wait to see, and you're going to do total results-based decision-making. There is not a professional sports team that succeeds making results-based decisions only. And you just get the feeling that that is what the Jets are doing, and I think it's going to cost them. They're not alone in that, of course. The Indianapolis Colts are the kings, or at least the queens, of the results-based decision-making. I was absolutely shocked when the news came out yesterday that Anthony Richardson is back, baby. If you don't know who that is, he was the quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts, and then he got benched because the coach, whose name is Sean Steichen, he said, we've evaluated everything, and this guy gives us the best chance to win. Talking about Joe Flacco. And this is not a temporary gig, baby. He is going to be our quarterback for the rest of the year. You can bet your bippy. Well, coach, your bippy has been bet and lost. All it took was an 0-2 record by Joe Flacco with 2 TDs, 4 interceptions, and 2 fumbles. That's it. That's the amount of rope that Joe Flacco had. Because I don't know if you realize, But in 2 weeks, it's not only that Ja Morant can get over all of his issues, but also Anthony Richardson can. I didn't mean to throw a stray at Ja Morant, but it just is too easy. The NBA suspended him and he got cured. It's like a miracle, like Joel Embiid's knees. Steichen said some weird stuff when he put Anthony Richardson back as the quarterback. Stuff that I assume was not properly workshopped, although it's hard to know because Jim Irsay and Chris Ballard are gone. Chris Ballard, who was willing to take the heat when things were going bad and they were benching Richardson, was like, dude, this is on me. Everything's on me. Well, now they're benching Flacco and putting Richardson back, and the guy is silent as a church mouse, hanging out his coach Shane Steichen to dry. The owner, où est toi? Where are you? All you do is tweet Jim Irsay, silent as a mouse's gaseous release. Nothing. The guy will tweet anything. Are you to believe that Chris Ballard and Jim Irsay were not involved in the decision to bench Flacco and reinstate Anthony Richardson as the starting quarterback? For your sake, you better hope not. Of course the owner's involved. But he stayed quiet. Steichen said some funny things about the process they underwent and how Anthony Richardson has totally improved from the classroom to walkthroughs. Just everything's amazing. That was him talking about, wait for it, not Anthony Richardson, but Joe Flacco. I just joked myself because it's so funny to me. Flacco gives the team the best chance to win. That was 2 weeks ago. We evaluated everything like yesterday's show. He's going to start the rest of the season. It's so good. Nope. What do you think that Anthony Richardson thinks? We had an issue when we would, and this is something that owners like to do, but it's Jim Irsay's quiet, which is strange. But when you keep going back and forth, like doing a starting pitcher and then putting him in the bullpen or sending him down after a bad start, or when a hitter is 0 for 10 and you move him up or down in the lineup, the opposite of what Aaron Boone did with Aaron Judge this postseason, how do you think the players react to it? It's one of the ways that I've evolved and changed over time because players don't react well to that, and I didn't used to care. My view was just, SU and DYJ. Shut up and do your job. But as I look back on it, I could have done way better the way that we communicated certain decisions that were made because of the amount of players that we did not get the best from because they always felt the pressure of the moment without any opportunity for failure. So Anthony Richardson is going to take the ball this weekend. What happens if he doesn't win? What if he throws an interception or the Colts just don't perform offensively? Is he again looking over his shoulder? The back and forth that we've seen, and it's not just the Colts, it's a bunch of teams. The Panthers did it. They got, in their mind, an excuse when Dalton had the car accident, but they wanted Bryce Young back in there. You don't just throw away that sort of first-round talent, that quarterback position, just because of lack of performance. That is an emotional response to some losing where you think, hey, we can be better with Dalton or Flacco, 2 journeymen at best. Yeah, I'll say it. Journeyman. I don't know what's going on inside the Colts. I can only base it on what they've done. I can only base it based on things that have been said. Kenny Moore is a really good defender for the Colts, and he had some, I'd say, some pretty strong things to say after they lost to the Bills. And he was impugning the work ethic of the Colts, much in the way the former Dolphins player Elliott said that the Dolphins are a bunch of softies. There's a lot of that with all the podcasts and all the platforms that the players have. As a team executive, you're like whack-a-mole trying to follow what everyone's saying, trying to figure out when you're going to need to talk to who about what they say, trying to keep a locker room not divided when there's natural divisions that happen between offense and defense, all sorts of things that the coach needs to do. And it's really hard, much harder now than it used to be. Of course, Kenny Moore did what all players do when they talk after games or they say something that doesn't get received well. What do you think is page 1 of the, ooh, that went over like a lead balloon playbook? Hey, I'm sorry. I was emotional. We dismiss so much as being emotional. I find it to be a very poor excuse. It's right up there with, oh, I was on Ambien. Sorry. I just don't, I don't view it as having a lot of credibility. But Kenny Moore apologized, and the Colts are going to live happily ever after. And the funny part is, as the scheduling gods would have it, the Colts play the Jets this weekend. Somebody's going to be happy, and someone's going to have their despondency continue. We'll find out. Congratulations, Anthony. You're back, baby. Coca, you're up.
You know what I want? I want to talk to Samson.
So you want to talk to Samson. Thank you. Get in my X at David P. Samson. I also have an account on Blue Sky. Don't remember what it is. I think it's David P. Samson Blue Sky. I haven't found a way to look at questions there yet and whether or not there's a messenger or a DM function, but I added the account yesterday. I was feeling a little needy as the followers continued to go down, and then there was an attorney general that was put up for bid who is just an absolute nightmare. There's no way he gets confirmed, though. And this is not me telling you that I did or did not prevail on Tuesday, November 5th. It is telling me that that is not a serious pick for attorney general. It's funny how quickly you forget about Secretary of State when you see an attorney general and you're like, wait a minute, that could actually impact me. Secretary of State, I don't want a war. Don't get me wrong. Wouldn't like to see nuclear bombs going back and forth or any sort of land war that's reserved for Asia. Thank you, Wallace Shawn. And then move that to my back door. Of course not. But sheesh. A lot of businesses saw what happened in the election and their people are excited, thinking it's going to be good for them, good for the stocks, good for money, good for the market. Meanwhile, some of the billionaires who are apparently going to benefit the most are liquidating significant positions in their stocks. But let's not digress. Let's not take the focus away from reality. The party that wants you to think you're going to be rich. So say you want to talk to Samson, get to me, ask me a question. This has made news every day. We talked about it yesterday, but there was new information after we were done filming. David, you see that MLB and Braves dropped their objection to Diamond bankruptcy plan? Either for the sporting class or nothing personal. Why would they do that? Well, I appreciate that question. We are recording a sporting class today if you're listening to this live on Thursday or if you're on the DraftKings network, which is only under 2 hours from now. Thank you. Today we'll be recording another sporting class, and that will be released. I'm not sure when. I think that Pablo releases them on Fridays, but that'd be tomorrow, so I'm actually not sure. One of the subjects that may come up is the Diamond bankruptcy plan because today's a big day. Today is sales day. Sales day is the day that when you're in Chapter 11, you get yourself a whole plan, and then you go before the judge and you say, Your Honor, take a look at our fully baked plan. Forget the gooey inside. We have a lot of chocolate chips. You're going to love it. And if you do, could you be a darling and approve it? Any objections? MLB and the Braves, they look at each other and they sit on their hands. MLB and the Braves announced yesterday that they're dropping their objection to the Diamond bankruptcy plan. It is a very important fact when there are creditors and there are partners who are not in favor of the transition plan, of the getting out of Chapter 11 plan. When Major League Baseball and the Braves were objecting, they were objecting on several grounds. One of them is that they felt as though they had not seen the deals that Diamond had done with Amazon, the NBA, and the NHL, and they wanted to see them. Two is they didn't think there was a path to survival. Forget long-term, They were talking immediate short term, like tomorrow. So what Diamond's been doing is cutting deals. They cut deals with Amazon to stream games. They cut deals with FD to get a title sponsor to all of their regional sports networks. They renegotiated the deals with every team downward. What we told you about the Cardinals a couple days ago now stands true for all of the remaining teams, because even the Braves, who they had said they're going to make whole, the filing included a little nugget that the Braves were taking a smaller deal. Mark my words, folks. The impact of this goes right to the payroll, and that is going to annoy a bunch of agents who are going to start grumbling about collective bargaining. When you describe a deal as amended, there are some scenarios where an amended deal means more money that's being paid out, or an amended deal means less money that's being paid out, or an amended deal could be about term and you keep the money the same. There could be a few provisions that you want amended, but the general business of the deal stays the same. There is no way that the deal with the Braves stayed the same. The Braves are going to take a pay cut like the other teams. Why did this happen? Why would Major League Baseball and the Braves agree to drop their objection? And the answer is the deals that these teams have renegotiated with Diamond, which Diamond is showing to the bankruptcy judge, are all short-term deals, which enables every one of those teams to get out from under those deals, recapture their streaming rights, and then bulk them, bag them, tie them in a bow, tie them in a knot, and sell them as one. That's been the objective of Rob Manfred, as a way to increase revenue sharing, as a way to increase parity, competitive balance. It's to stop the huge gulf that exists between the digital rights of Team 1 versus Team 30. If you nationalize it and share it, that is additional money going to revenue sharing. So it's no coincidence to me at all that baseball took away its objection when they found out that Diamond was willing to negotiate shorter-term deals with the teams. Because you see, we are 3 short years away from all of these rights reverting back to the teams, all of the Diamond teams. I wonder how the judge would look at that going forward. Is he just kicking the can to the next bankruptcy? Or does he have the guts to look at them and say, hey, great job, but this only gives you 36 months, and then what are you going to do? And you can say that baseball is the smallest part of the football, basketball, baseball, 3 legs of the stool. But when it comes to content, summer content, baseball is critical. If 3 years from now, streaming rights are gone, that is a hugely valuable piece of property that baseball is taking back that will hurt Diamond and their abilities. Just yesterday, we told you about the 1 game a la carte. Remember the $6.99? Watch whatever game you want. This is an evolving space. The reason why you read or heard that Diamond had cut deals with the Tigers and the Rays and the Braves and the Marlins and the Cardinals and the Angels, the reason you heard all that is you're getting an inside view of Diamond's plan when they go into bankruptcy court to fight against their current status and to become a going concern again. They feel like they can convince the judge that they have a viable business that will help them escape Chapter 11, notwithstanding baseball saying up till yesterday they don't have a viable business. In my experience, while you can get a lot of things done in 24 hours or in 525,600 minutes, you can even get a lot done in a year. Coca. It's not viable. What are we even talking about? Does anyone think inside the courtroom that this plan that Diamond is presenting today is a plan to escape Chapter 11? and that their business plan is viable, given the fact that their teams did this only to guarantee a stream of revenue for today, knowing that they would have more runway to plan for tomorrow? I don't know. I assume Judge Chris Lopez is on top of this. I assume. I mean, it's not a kangaroo court. It's not a clown court. It's not a tuck your eyebrows court. This is real. We're going to find out. We're also going to find out what movie. It's Thursday. I get to review a top 100 movie, and it's one of my absolute faves, which I say every week because, of course, if you're in my top 100, you're one of my faves. And then I want to talk a little basketball. A bunch of stuff happened last night. That was fascinating, but I really want to talk mostly about Gregg Popovich. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Nothing Personal. I was fighting it just before Coca. Yesterday was one of those bad days and nights where I just didn't get enough sleep. And the way we do the show, the loneliness of the show, and it's just me talking to you for 50 minutes, I am locked in because I know what I want to talk about. I've thought about it in my head. And I found myself during that last segment, and I apologize to all of you if you could tell that, and I'd like your feedback. It's okay. I had a moment where I had like a brain freeze where I didn't know where I was or what I was thinking. So during the break, don't worry, I checked myself out. I did the test. Hi, my name's David Samson, and it turns out I'm GTG. Whew. That's one of those things where you better bet 1,000 because the one time you're not, that's sort of like the end of the show. Down goes Samson. Down goes Samson. I quote a lot of movies. I do. Movies are my thing. If you watched Le Batard yesterday, I was on with him for one of the hours. I don't know which one. I didn't look at the feed. It was either hour 1 or hour 2 or the Big Suey or the local hour, but I don't think it would have been that, but who knows? And we were talking about my love of movies. And when you have, it's hour 1 called The Final Nightgown. The Final Nightgown. Check it out on the Dan Le Batard Show with Stu Gatz. DavidSamsonPodcast.com has all my movies. I don't understand. I guess there's people who read my tweets but don't listen to the show. I guess I should tweet it again once in a while, but please spread the word. We have a website where you can buy merch. Yeah. You can also find out my top 100 movies and every way to see every pick of the day, everything. Number 42 on my top 100 is a film called Broadcast News. And it is second to Fletch if I had to do a top 5, which I'm not doing because I'm not Stu Gatz. But if I had to do one, he's brilliant that he can come up with them that quickly. If I had to do a top 5 movies that I quote from, there's no doubt that Fletch is number 1. Thank you, Tim Matheson. And there's also no doubt that Broadcast News is going to be in my top 5. In a quiet moment with only people I love and respect, I give you my number 1 line, which is a line said to Holly Hunter by her boss. It must be so hard to know that you're always the smartest person in the room. Holly Hunter is a very interesting character. She plays a producer for the Broadcast News. William Hurt is an anchor. Albert Brooks is a reporter, possible anchor. There's so many scenes in that movie from him schwitzing while on air, which is something that's still talked about that I think about whenever the light goes on. And I feel a little bead coming down the mustache or down the back. Like, oh no, is this my Albert Brooks moment? Forget like a Brenneman moment and all the other broadcasters who stepped in and had moments. No. The Albert Brooks moment, that's the one that everyone fears, because if you're sort of homophobic, racist, misogynistic, I'm not saying any one of the previous names I mentioned is, but it'll tend to come out in a moment of weakness when you're not fully focused. If things like that don't come out of your mouth, it's because you don't actually think them. The sweat thing's a little different. The flop sweats can happen anytime. If you haven't seen Broadcast News, I strongly encourage it. It's that good. The character development, directed by James Brooks, a director who would be maybe certainly in my top 10 all time. His ability to get performances. There's a special cameo by Jack Nicholson with a very, very quotable line about him. He's walking through the offices and everyone's getting fired. And this is a movie from, I bet, 30 years ago. And it's a lot like what's going on now because it's always like that. We just have recency bias for our year or our generation or our moment in time. But I can promise you the issues that we're facing today are issues that have been faced going way back. So Jack Nicholson is walking through the newsroom and people are packing up and they're crying. He's like, hey, is there anything I can do for any of you? Somebody stands up, John Cusack's sister actually, and says, yeah, you could take a pay cut. And then it cuts to him walking away. Like he's going to take a pay cut to pay for the people making $50,000 a year. No chance, toilet pants. Broadcast news, check it out. I love that part of my movie watching regimen is that each week I'm watching one of these top 100 movies again. I had seen broadcast news pretty recently. It holds up perfectly. All right, will you bring the spreadsheet on the board, please? For those of you not watching, there's a spreadsheet of our 100 movies and what we've reviewed and what we haven't. And all Coca does is press a button and boom, we get a movie. The People vs. Larry Flint. That should be a top 50 movie for me. I've actually talked about that on the air with Woody Harrelson, Edward Norton, Courtney Love, about a real life case where Larry Flint, it's all about pornography. Here's what I'd like you to think about until next week. Hatred. What's another good adjective of something that people cannot? So racist. It's another one. Homophobic. That's still another one. When you see it, you know it, even if you can't define it. Because there are some people who try to say, hey, just because I made that joke, it's a joke. It's just a joke. I was just having fun about Puerto Rico. It's total comedy. Now, certain comedy works, certain comedy doesn't. There's no question about that. But there is a very well-principled law about pornography. When asked to have it defined, what a justice once said, I can't really define it, but I know it when I see it. There's a lot of things like that in this world. Can you believe Gregg Popovich has been the coach of the Spurs for, I think, 29 years? It's almost incredible. Popovich is looked at as this deity by the NBA, by players in the NBA, by retired players in the NBA. He is the longest tenured of any coach in any of the major sports. He has been hugely successful. He's got 5 rings, never got one for the other thumb, but with Wembanyama, it's not out of the question one of these years. He's 75 years old, and we got news last week that he was stepping away from the team for a minor medical problem. Of course, I laughed at that. Minor medical problems are only minor when they're not yours or someone of the people you love. But when you're having it, it's not so minor. And word came out yesterday that Popovich had a minor stroke. I'm sad to say that I've had a ton of experience with strokes in my family. My father specifically, when I do that test with the hand up, it's testing to see if you've had a stroke. I am obsessed with will I know, because it's so important when you're having an issue to get hospitalized and hopefully have them help you. So there's no such thing as a minor stroke. What they could be talking about is the recovery from said stroke. Some people lose all speech. Some people, half their face droops, or they can't smile. They can't walk. There are tons of things that can come of a stroke, none of which are minor. So if it is so minor as they're saying, why exactly wouldn't he be back on the sideline at a time certain? It's got to be more to the story than that. With Popovich out, it provides a very, very unique opportunity to talk about him because very few coaches have the longevity he has. But more than that, very few coaches are looked at by their players in the way and revered the way the players revere Popovich today. As a matter of fact, Think about this as a 75-year-old man who's been there forever. You had the GM say, hey, just so you know, Pop's out. It's going to take a village. He literally said that. We're going to play roles and two different people doing different things. We'll look at that. He's so confused because Brian Wright, the GM, hasn't had to make a coaching change. And believe you me, Popovich does it his way. There's no consulting Popovich with who's in the rotation. He's one of those old school guys that continues to prove that the way he does it is right. So therefore, don't get in my way. You don't really hear about all sorts of amazing communication going on there. But if you're the San Antonio Spurs, you've got to start now. You have to think about what is going to happen because a minor stroke, sometimes people get more. I'm not speculating about his health. It's an uncomfortable situation to have. But at some point at 75, you're thinking to yourself, wow, the stress of being a coach every day. Forget calling a timeout when you don't have one. Forget a team that has not performed and it's been a bottom dweller for a couple of years. I think at some point you say the juice isn't worth the squeeze anymore. But then, of course, I'm picturing Popovich at home watching the game. And I'm picturing him watching Wembanyama. I'm picturing him watch Wembanyama put a career 550 that he laid on, thinking to himself, you know what? I have total feeling in every extremity. I don't have much damage to my heart. How could I not want to be there to coach this superstar? I get that. Of course, there's always the next Wembanyama, although I guess he could be the next generational player. How many of those players have we seen who are generational players who aren't actually generational players? But anyway, he did drop 50, and it wasn't even the best moment of yesterday's NBA slate. I think you probably want to put Giannis scoring 59 is pretty cool. You could say that Karl Anthony Towns scored 46, but the team lost, so that's sort of less than cool. I could argue that LeBron James had the best day yesterday, who gave you a triple-double. That's 3 straight triple-doubles. And I didn't look at the numbers, Coca, but I can do it now. Was the triple-double a Westbrook special, or did he have significant points? I will check the box score and let you know, but I can only assume that he didn't cheap into the triple-double, although sometimes they do. Do you remember when LeBron wouldn't take the last rebound for his last triple-double? That's funny. LeBron James, just in case you guys want to know, LeBron James had 35 points, 14 rebounds, and 12 rebounds and 14 assists. That's not a Westbrook. That's a LeBron. The guy is just a machine. I don't know how he does that. Never know what he's doing. Nothing personal pick of the day. We are 157 and 165. We had the Kings over the Suns. That was a winner. I think they forgot, if I had to guess, that Durant wasn't playing. I don't know. I just know that the Kings won 127-104, and that was a good nothing personal pick of the day victory. Let's talk about tonight. It's football week 11 already, which is impossible to believe. I can't have that right either, Coco. What week number is this? Is it really week 11? It is week 11. Tempest Fugit, everybody. Please don't wait till tomorrow. What you could do today. Get it done. Enjoy. Do something fun and crazy. We got the Commanders playing the Eagles. I got to tell you, the game's in Philadelphia. The Eagles are hot. They're 7-2. The Commanders are 7-3, getting 3.5. You're going to want that extra half. Make sure you shop to get that extra half. Line subject to change. But we're taking the Commanders plus 3.5 versus the Eagles. Let's talk about fathers. I'm not going to go through my shortcomings as a father with you, other than I was a really good Little League parent. Never made my son feel any pressure. Hey, you better be good at baseball. It turns out that he was. Played through high school. But he never did it for my approval because I approved him under all scenarios, though did not ever give him a participation trophy. There are different ways to handle being the father of an athlete. One of the things of my career is dealing with so many fathers and just learning the spectrum of how these kids grew up, what their family life was like, what the fathers are like. Forget when the kid is drafted and is a minor leaguer. I'm talking about when the kid's in the big leagues. I was watching the Knicks the other day, Coca, and they showed Karl Anthony Towns' father just dialed into the game. Not like being distracted by any fans. Like, I don't know whether he was there alone, but totally dialed in. And we get that a lot in baseball, the dialed in parents. It can be constructive and it can be destructive. Deion Sanders is well on his way to being destructive. He said the quiet part out very, very loudly yesterday. And I was fascinated by it, by his plan. You see, he's the Colorado coach, the same guy who's rumored to take over in Dallas when McCarthy gets fired. He said just straight up, I'm going to steer my son, Shedeur Sanders, who is looking to be a top 5 pick in next year's NFL draft. He said he appeared on Fox Sports 1's Speak, and he was pretty clear with Sean Johnson. Listen, if I don't like the team that drafts him, he's not going to go there. And he said, and this is one of my favorite things that people do, quote, I'm not going to do it publicly. I'll do it privately. And he's talking about him stepping in if the wrong team drafts Shedeur, his son. He did it on TV. Am I the only one? Is it just me who finds that funny? That he's telling you, hey, I'm a private guy. I will never embarrass the team that drafts my son. But privately, oh, you can bet your gazungas that I'm going to talk to him. Well, now what? Now, all of a sudden, you've got a situation where the father has said that he's going to get involved, but do it quietly. There's a team that drafts Sanders. And of course, people are going to Deion. He's going to be in the media, even if he's not the coach of Colorado anymore. He'll be the coach somewhere in theory. Or even if he's not, the media is going to find him and say, so will he play for this team? What do you think? I don't know if you remember when Archie Manning said the same thing. I'm not going to get involved. Let's just let it happen. When Eli wouldn't play for the Chargers, and then the Chargers drafted him anyway, and then not more than 45 minutes later, Eli Manning was traded. There's a power dynamic that's always existed, and it's a false sense of power. It's a ridiculous sense of power. The whole purpose of the draft is to allocate talent across teams. You cannot, and we, in 18 years drafting Major League Baseball players, the number of times that we had an agent say, hey, man, not going to play for you. Very few, because every drafted player wanted to be in an organization because we provided opportunity. But I'm pretty sure that I would not be swayed by Pops. He'll be very unhappy if you don't take care of him and his friend and his brother. You don't realize what you have until you lose it. You're going to be despondent beyond repair with the misbehavior, but go ahead. Keep his draft rights. We're still not going to sign with you. We'll sit out and play in the XFL for a year. I mean, give me a small break, would you please? He's just funny, the things that he said. And he did want to make sure, which is very appreciative, that it doesn't matter if you have a good or a bad offensive line. Now, of course, that is something that is very important, because with a bad and wholly offensive line, your quarterback can get crushed and hurt. Of course, he can also get crushed and hurt by leading with his head and not knowing how to tackle. But he just wanted to make sure, don't worry about any offensive line. If it's not good of the team which drafts him, that's not going to be a thing. I'm more curious in the infrastructure of the organization, the direction of where the team's going. Can you imagine we have to do like a sales pitch to Deion Sanders, to the daddy of a drafted player? Hey, just want to make sure you know, we've got big plans for your son. We're going to build around him. He's going to be a starter. He's going to be an all-pro. We're never going to bench him if the team is 0-7. He will not be Bryce Young or Anthony Richardson. We promise you. We're going to let him play until he's 0-17. It's pretty good. I forgot when we were talking about the NBA. Thank you, Coca, to talk about a wait to see from yesterday that we had. You know, we revisit our wait to sees, and you'd find them on the DavidSampsonPodcast.com document. Wait to see from yesterday. Joel Embiid will not play against the Cavs last night. And guess what? He didn't. He and Paul George both sat out the back end. They played in the NBA Emirates Cup in-season tourney game, but then didn't play in the next game. As though there was even a question. You remember when Embiid said, "Oh, I could have been trolling you. I may want to play back-to-backs. Why not?" Nope. He doesn't want to. He just doesn't want you to be upset with him. Shams, actually, the new sort of lead guy over at ESPN, was pretty clear that Embiid is not going to play back-to-back games, no matter what he says. And that is that's a tough one for the NBA right now. I mean, you even had Kendrick Perkins going after Embiid and the Sixers, saying if he's healthy and didn't play in that back-to-back, and Embiid is the one who's telling you whether he's healthy or unhealthy, and we're ready to believe him, and Embiid said, yeah, I'm ready to go, but then the team doesn't play him because they're worried about him getting hurt. That's the exact thing that they tried to legislate away in the NBA, and it's happening. And Kendrick Perkins, I assure you, is not the only one looking for and hoping for an investigation. If you investigate the Sixers, and they've already done it once and fined them for comments made, they're going to be able to keep finding him because the inconsistency, it's almost like the front office and Embiid don't even talk. There is zero level of control, and you have to have that control. You just have to. The Sixers right now are a dumpster fire at 2-9. They have lost again last night. Basically, they're the anti-Cavaliers who are undefeated. They continued their streak of, I think they're 13-0 right now, which is absolutely incredible, though. It's still quite early in the season. Though in baseball, if you're 26-0, that's not nothing, to say the least. Let's talk about one more thing, if you don't mind, Coca, just for a couple minutes. Something came out yesterday that I just want to draw your attention to so you're aware of it and you understand how things work with a players association and a players union. You remember, I don't know if we talked about it. It was something that we had thought about putting in the show. I don't know if we did, but Bad Bunny, the one who is really going to make a difference. Bad Bunny, who is an extraordinarily popular, influential. He's been fighting against Major League Baseball's Players Association, and it actually went to arbitration. And the fight was that the Major League Baseball Players Association was fighting Bad Bunny and his agency for doing illegal things as agents. You cannot give gifts to players. You cannot make them promises. You can't give them concert tickets, give them money, give them Jeter gift baskets. You can't do any of that stuff when you're trying to book a player. It's not just untoward, it's unconscionable. So the interesting thing is that for whatever reason, Bad Bunny and his group thought that the MLBPA was targeting them. But don't forget the power that agents have in the Players Association. There's nothing that agents like less than watching someone new on the block come and try to take their clients. They will do anything in their power to stop it. They will make sure the Players Association files a complaint. They will make sure the Players Association sees it all the way through if they don't get an agreed upon punishment by the person who is gaining ground in the agency business. The arbitrator hears the case, makes the decision, and the ramifications of the decision is that, let there be no misunderstanding, the power of the Baseball Players Association is as strong as ever. And can I tie this to the collective bargaining agreement, which is up at the end of 26? I can, actually, because everything the MLBPA does, and I told you it started 3 months ago, but everything they do leading into the negotiation, which will start in under a year in earnest for a deal that ends in a couple of years, the Players Association has to make it very clear to its players and to the owners that they are in charge. There are no breaking of the ranks. They are not going to take the chance in what will be a critical bargaining session, which likely will end in a lockout or strike, that they don't have to worry about the splinters that were such a huge part of the last CBA, where you had the Boris-led executive council not even representing what the players wanted. So there is a ton of things behind the scenes of this arbitration decision. And for the Players Association, it's a pretty simple equation. It's just business. We'll be back tomorrow. This is nothing personal.